How to Speak English Fluently. Welcome. Today we're going to explore the complete journey to speaking English fluently. Fluency in English is not just about knowing grammar or vocabulary, it's about the ability to speak smoothly, confidently, and naturally. Whether you're just starting out or trying to become more comfortable in conversations, these tips will provide you with a structured path to reach fluency. 1. Start with your mindset. First, let's talk about the importance of mindset. Many learners are afraid of making mistakes or think they'll never speak perfectly. But the key is to remember that mistakes are part of the learning process. Focus on improvement, not perfection. Shift your goal from speaking perfectly to communicating effectively. This shift alone can reduce a lot of the pressure and make speaking more enjoyable. 2. Build a strong foundation with basic vocabulary and phrases. To start speaking English fluently, you need to build a strong vocabulary base. Begin with everyday words and phrases. Focus on words used in daily conversations, such as greetings, common verbs, and nouns related to daily activities. Example: start by learning phrases like, "How are you?" "I'd like some water," or "Could you help me, please?" Simple phrases build your confidence and help you respond quickly in conversations. To expand vocabulary, learn 10 to 15 new words each day. Use flashcards, spaced repetition, or language apps. Group words by themes, food, travel, emotions, so they're easier to remember. Practice making sentences with these words to strengthen retention. 3. Master pronunciation. Early fluent speaking isn't just about knowing words, it's about saying them correctly. English pronunciation can be tricky because some words are not pronounced the way they're spelled. This can create misunderstandings if not practiced properly. Focus on mastering pronunciation early to prevent bad habits from forming. Tips for pronunciation: use phonetic tools or dictionary apps that show how words sound. Watch videos of native speakers and repeat what they say. Mimicking native speakers helps you get the correct sounds and intonation. Practice challenging sounds like "thee" in think or the silent K in knock. Try using tongue twisters. They're fun and force you to pay attention to how words flow together. Practice speaking with simple sentences. Once you know some words and phrases, begin forming short sentences. Even if they're simple or feel basic, saying sentences aloud is key to building confidence. Start with sentences like, "I am learning English," "My name is Day," or "I like coffee." Then build up to more complex structures gradually. Activities for sentence practice. Speak aloud daily about simple topics, your day, your interests. Describe actions you're doing like, "I am cooking," or "I am reading." This helps you to think in English. Try narrating your routine. For example, "I wake up, then I have breakfast," etc. This trains your brain to process English thoughts in real time. 5. Immerse yourself in English. One of the most effective ways to become fluent is to surround yourself with English, even if you're in a non-English speaking country. There are ways to create an English-speaking environment around you. Ideas for immersion. Change the language settings on your phone, computer, and social media to English. Listen to English music and sing along. Choose songs with clear lyrics to start, as they're easier to follow. Watch English movies, TV shows, and YouTube videos with subtitles. Try to imitate what you hear. Join online communities, forums, or apps where people communicate in English. 6. Think in English, not in your native language. A common barrier to fluency is constantly translating in your head from your native language. This habit slows down your speaking and makes sentences sound unnatural. The solution? Start thinking directly in English. Steps to think in English. Narrate your thoughts in English. For example, if you see a tree, think, "That tree is tall," instead of translating. Practice mentally describing things you see around you. If you don't know how to say something, look up new words. This keeps your thoughts connected to English instead of going back to your native language. 7. Focus on listening and comprehension. Listening is an essential part of fluency because it trains your brain to understand English as it's spoken naturally. Listening also improves pronunciation, vocabulary, and intonation. Ways to improve listening. Listen to English podcasts. Choose topics that interest you, as you're more likely to stay engaged. Watch news in English, where the language is usually clear and precise. Try shadowing, a technique where you listen to a sentence and repeat it right after. This is excellent for picking up natural rhythm and pace. 8. Engage in conversations as much as possible. Speaking with others is crucial for developing fluency. If you're learning alone, it can feel daunting, but there are plenty of ways to practice with others. Conversation practice. Find a language partner or conversation group. Apps like Tandem or HelloTalk are great for connecting with English speakers. Start by having short conversations on specific topics. Discuss things like your favorite movies, food, or hobbies. Practice role-playing scenarios like ordering at a restaurant or talking to a friend. This helps you learn useful phrases and build confidence. 9. Use idioms and phrasal verbs. Native speakers often use idioms and phrasal verbs that make their language sound more natural. While these can be confusing at first, learning a few commonly used ones adds a lot to your fluency. Tips for learning idioms and phrasal verbs. Start with the most common ones. For example, break the ice to start a conversation, or give up to stop trying. Try using one or two in your sentences each day until they feel natural. Keep a journal of new idioms and phrasal verbs you learn, along with their meanings and example sentences. 10. Work on grammar naturally. Instead of memorizing complicated grammar rules, practice using grammar in context. Fluency doesn't require perfect grammar. It requires enough understanding to convey meaning effectively. Grammar tips. Focus on basic tenses first: past, present, and future. Practice forming sentences in each tense. Gradually learn about articles, a, an, the, prepositions, and conjunctions. Use grammar apps or resources to clarify anything you find confusing. Correct yourself gently if you make a mistake, but don't stop mid-conversation just to fix grammar. Fluency is about flow, not perfection. 11th, practice consistently and track your progress. Consistency is the key to fluency. Set small, manageable goals and track your progress. Daily practice helps you stay motivated and creates a steady improvement. Ways to stay consistent. Set a daily or weekly goal, like speaking for 10 minutes a day. Keep a journal to track new words, phrases, and areas where you improved. Record yourself speaking to identify your strengths and areas to improve. Reward yourself when you reach milestones to stay motivated. 12. Overcome. Fear of speaking. Fear is one of the biggest barriers to fluency. It's natural to feel nervous, but remember, every time you speak is an opportunity to grow, except that some mistakes are a part of learning. Ways to overcome speaking fear. Start by talking to yourself in front of a mirror or recording yourself. Remind yourself that mistakes are normal and that fluency develops through practice. Find supportive partners who are patient and understanding. Celebrate small wins. For example, if you successfully held a short conversation, acknowledge your progress. 13. Develop a habit of self-correction. Learning to self-correct is a vital part of fluency. This doesn't mean stopping mid-sentence, but reflecting on what you said afterward. Self-correction techniques. After a conversation, think about areas where you felt unsure. If you notice frequent mistakes, focus on those areas in your next practice session. Keep notes of common errors and work on those in your study sessions. 14. Build confidence through positive practice. Lastly, building confidence is as important as learning the language itself. The more you practice speaking, the more natural it will feel. Surround yourself with positive influences and don't be too hard on yourself. 15. Expand your knowledge of cultural context. Fluency in a language goes beyond just speaking and listening. Understanding the culture associated with the language is key. English is spoken in many countries, and each region has its own unique cultural nuances, slang, and references. How cultural context helps fluency. Understanding idioms and expressions. Idiomatic phrases are often linked to cultural events, traditions, or humor. Knowing where they come from helps you understand when and how to use them appropriately. Engagement in conversation. Being culturally aware allows you to engage in more meaningful conversations. For example, when discussing a local event or holiday in an English-speaking country, it helps to know the context behind it. Avoiding cultural missteps. Understanding cultural norms can prevent awkward moments. In some cultures, directness is appreciated in conversations, while others may value subtlety. Knowing these differences can make your conversations flow better and feel more natural. Practical ways to learn. Cultural context. Watch documentaries or series that explore the cultural aspects of English-speaking countries. Shows that depict local traditions, history, and social norms can provide insight into the language used in these contexts. Engage in discussions about current events. Talking about news, entertainment, or social topics often involves slang or informal language. This will help you learn how native speakers express opinions and react to social situations. Meet English speakers from different countries. When speaking to people from various regions, you'll learn about dialects, expressions, and unique ways to communicate in different parts of the English-speaking world. 16. Use technology to your advantage. In today's world, technology can be a powerful ally in your quest for fluency. From language apps to online tools, the digital world offers countless resources to help you practice speaking, listening, and even reading in English. Useful technological tools, language learning apps, apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise help expand vocabulary and improve grammar. Many apps also have speech recognition features that allow you to practice pronunciation and get feedback. Speech recognition tools. Use tools like Google Translate or speech to text on your phone to practice your pronunciation. These tools can help you adjust your speech patterns until they match native speakers. Video calls. Apps like Zoom, Skype, and FaceTime allow you to practice real-time conversation with people from around the world. This is a great way to get used to speaking with different accents and discussing a wide range of topics. Listening practice. Use podcast apps like Spotify, Audible, or Stitcher for listening to English podcasts. Or try YouTube for native speakers. You can adjust the playback speed to match your level and pause to repeat phrases. Online dictionaries. Websites like Cambridge or Oxford offer free online dictionaries with pronunciation guides. Some even have voice recordings to help you practice. 17. Read extensively in English. Reading is an excellent way to improve your vocabulary, understand sentence structure, and see how grammar rules are applied in context. Whether it's books, blogs, articles, or social media posts, reading in English helps you absorb the language naturally. How reading enhances fluency, vocabulary expansion. As you read more, you'll come across new words, phrases, and idioms that are common in everyday speech. Improves grammar instinct. Reading exposes you to proper grammar and sentence construction. It helps reinforce what you've learned and can make grammar rules feel more intuitive. Exposes you to different writing styles. By reading a wide variety of genres, fiction, news, blogs, academic articles, you'll develop an understanding of different tones, registers, and language uses. Improve speed. The more you read, the faster your comprehension becomes. This allows you to quickly process spoken English when you hear it in conversations or media. Tips for reading in English. Start with simple texts. Begin with materials suited to your current level, such as graded readers or children's books. These will be easier to understand and give you a sense of accomplishment. Read aloud. This not only helps with pronunciation, but also trains you to speak naturally as you internalize the rhythm of the language. Challenge yourself. Gradually, as you grow more confident, move on to more complex texts like novels, nonfiction books, or news articles. Don't be afraid to look up words you don't know. This is an excellent way to expand your vocabulary. Use audiobooks. Listening to an audiobook while reading the text allows you to hear proper pronunciation and intonation. 18. Work on your fluency through shadowing techniques. One of the best ways to improve both your speaking and listening skills is through a method called shadowing. This involves listening to native speakers and repeating what they say, trying to mimic their pronunciation, speed, and intonation exactly. Steps to practice. Shadowing. Choose content you enjoy. Pick short dialogues, speeches, podcasts, or interviews that feature natural, real-life conversations. Try to find content that you can relate to and are excited to listen to. Start slow. Begin by listening to a short passage. Pause and repeat the words, phrases, and sentences as closely as possible. Focus on accuracy. Pay attention to the stress on words, rhythm, and how sentences are linked together. Don't worry about understanding every single word. Focus on repeating the sounds and patterns. Gradually increase the length. Once you're comfortable with shorter passages, move on to longer ones. The goal is to improve fluency by speaking at a natural speed without hesitations. 19. Embrace mistakes as opportunities for growth. Making mistakes is an essential part of learning any language, and English is no exception. Instead of feeling discouraged, view each mistake as an opportunity to improve. Fluency comes not from avoiding errors, but from learning from them and adjusting your speaking habits accordingly. How to use mistakes productively. Self-reflection. After a conversation or practice session, reflect on any errors. Were there words or phrases you struggled with? Write them down and practice using them correctly next time. Use mistakes as learning opportunities. When someone corrects you, view it as helpful feedback. If you mispronounce a word, make a note of it and practice saying it correctly. Stay positive. Remember, native speakers also make mistakes. The key is to keep trying, correcting, and refining your speaking skills. 20. Stay patient and persistent. Lastly, remember that fluency doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, and you'll see improvement over time with consistent effort. There will be challenges along the way, but staying persistent and patient will help you reach your goal. How to stay motivated. Set small, achievable goals. For example, aim to have a 5-minute conversation in English every week, or learn 20 new words by the end of the month. These goals help track your progress and give you a sense of accomplishment. Celebrate your achievements. Take time to acknowledge your improvements. Whether it's being able to hold a conversation without pausing or understanding a TV show in English, recognize the small milestones. Connect with fellow learners. Join forums, online groups, or communities where you can share progress, challenges, and tips with other language learners. This will help you stay motivated and encourage you to continue your journey. Title: The Journey to Fluency. One story of mastering English opening scene. A glimpse into the struggle. The story begins with a person named Ava, a young professional in her late 20s, sitting in a coffee shop, scrolling through social media on her phone. She scrolls past a post where her friend shares a video of herself speaking fluently in English during a work presentation. Ava smiles, but a feeling of inadequacy settles over her. Despite speaking English for years, Ava can't help but feel embarrassed about her accent, her broken sentences, and the way she stumbles when she tries to speak confidently in public. In this moment of frustration, Ava reflects on her past struggles with English. She thinks back to a time when she couldn't even introduce herself without worrying about the judgment of others. The story then transitions to Ava telling her friend Maya about her journey, the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the ultimate success she's achieved in becoming fluent in English. Chapter 1: A Rough Start. Ava begins her story by describing her early experiences with learning English. Growing up in a non English speaking country, she was always good at reading and writing in English thanks to her education. But speaking? That was a different story. She remembers feeling paralyzed when it came time to speak. Her mind would freeze and her words would get tangled. She recalls the embarrassment she felt during group conversations in school, when classmates would laugh at her accent or the mistakes she made. She talks about how at first her goal was to speak perfectly, to sound just like a native speaker. She recounts the countless hours she spent memorizing vocabulary lists and learning grammar rules, hoping that this would make her speak fluently. But after months of study, she still felt like there was something missing. Chapter 2: The Realization. Fluency isn't about perfection. It was during a language exchange session with a native English speaker, John, that Ava had an epiphany. She had been nervously preparing for this session, hoping she wouldn't make any mistakes. But when John started speaking to her, he didn't care about her accent or the minor errors she made. He just listened and responded as if their conversation was entirely natural. He encouraged her to keep going, saying, "The more you speak, the better you'll get. Fluency isn't about perfection, it's about communication." Ava realized that her obsession with perfection was holding her back. She shifted her focus from trying to be flawless to simply engaging in conversations and expressing herself. This was the turning point in her journey, where she decided that she would no longer be afraid of making mistakes. Chapter 3: Taking Small Steps. Building Confidence. Ava began her journey by taking small steps to build her confidence. She started by talking to herself in English. She'd describe her day aloud, narrate simple actions like, "I'm going to the store," or "I'm making lunch." At first, she felt awkward and self conscious, but she continued, knowing that practice would help. Soon, she took her practice outside of her comfort zone. Ava would introduce herself to strangers in English, like when she went to the grocery store or chatted with baristas at her favorite coffee shop. She started asking simple questions like, "What time do you open?" Or, "Do you have this in another size?" Little by little, her fear began to fade, and she started feeling more comfortable speaking in public. Chapter 4: Immersion and the Power of Consistency. Realizing that speaking English in her daily life was the best way to improve, Ava immersed herself in the language. She began watching English movies and TV shows, starting with subtitles in her native language and eventually switching to English subtitles. She focused on the way people spoke, their expressions, their pauses, and the rhythm of their speech. Ava also made a daily habit of listening to English podcasts while commuting to work. She would listen to a range of topics, from business podcasts to storytelling and comedy. The variety in accents and speaking styles expanded her understanding of the language and helped her adjust to different contexts. Every morning, Ava set aside time for reading in English. She would read articles, blogs, and books, marking new words and phrases that she didn't understand. The more she read, the more confident she became in her ability to understand and use the language. Her consistency paid off, not overnight, but over time. After a few months of immersing herself in English on a daily basis, Ava found that her comprehension had improved dramatically. She could follow conversations on TV without needing subtitles, and she began using new vocabulary effortlessly in her daily interactions. Chapter 5: The Struggle with Speaking. Despite her progress, speaking fluently still felt like a challenge. Ava noticed that while her understanding of English was improving, her ability to speak still lagged behind. She would often hesitate in the middle of sentences, looking for the right words, and the fear of sounding unnatural held her back. Determined to overcome this, Ava joined a local language exchange group. It was a space where people from all over the world met to practice speaking English, and Ava immediately felt like she had found her tribe. Here, there were no judgments, just people who were equally committed to learning and improving. During these sessions, Ava practiced speaking on various topics, from simple introductions to more complex discussions about current events and personal experiences. Though it was uncomfortable at first, the more she spoke, the easier it became. She learned that even if she made a mistake, people would still understand her, and that was the most important thing. Chapter 6: Embracing Mistakes. The Key to Fluency. Ava shares how the fear of making mistakes used to paralyze her, but now she embraces them as part of the learning process. During a particularly difficult conversation with a colleague at work, Ava made several mistakes in her speech. She was about to apologize and correct herself when her colleague Emma stopped her and said, "Ava, don't worry. You're speaking English, and that's what matters. We're communicating just fine." This moment helped Ava let go of her fear. She understood that mistakes were inevitable and that each mistake was an opportunity to improve. She stopped overthinking her grammar and instead focused on expressing her ideas clearly. As she practiced more, she became more fluid and confident. Chapter 7: The Power of Listening and Mimicking. Ava also discovered the power of listening and mimicking. She started listening to English speakers who spoke in a way she admired, whether it was a podcaster, a news anchor, or even a character in a movie. She'd replay their sentences, mimicking their pronunciation, tone, and rhythm. This helped her learn the natural flow of spoken English. Shadowing, or repeating after the speaker, became one of Ava's favorite techniques. She would repeat entire conversations, paying close attention to how the sentences were structured, the way the speaker emphasized certain words, and the overall intonation. Over time, this practice helped her sound more natural and confident when speaking. Chapter 8: reaching a turning point, speaking fluently. After a year of dedication, Ava found herself in a meeting at work, presenting an idea to a group of colleagues in English. She no longer hesitated, nor did she feel nervous about making mistakes. Her speech flowed effortlessly, and her colleagues responded positively. It was in this moment that Ava realized how far she had come. She was no longer focused on speaking perfectly. Instead, she was able to communicate effectively and confidently in English. She felt proud of herself, knowing that her journey had been filled with persistence, hard work, and resilience. Chapter 9: Reflecting on the Journey. Ava ends her story by reflecting on the journey she has taken. She acknowledges that fluency isn't just about grammar rules or vocabulary, it's about being able to connect with others, share ideas, and express yourself without fear. She encourages others who may be struggling to remember that fluency comes with time, patience, and practice. Chapter 10: Overcoming the Fear of Public Speaking. Ava's story continues with a new challenge: public speaking. Despite being comfortable with one on one conversations, she found herself getting nervous when speaking in front of a group. This was a new hurdle, and one that seemed particularly daunting because she feared her accent and occasional grammatical mistakes would distract her audience. Her inner critic would often whisper, "What if they don't understand me? What if I sound unprofessional?" But Ava was determined not to let this fear hold her back. She realized that overcoming this fear was essential if she wanted to truly speak fluently. She began by joining a Toastmasters club, a supportive community focused on developing public speaking skills. At first, the idea of speaking in front of strangers terrified her, but her commitment to improving her English pushed her to take that first step. During her first meeting, Ava delivered a short speech about her language learning journey. She stumbled a bit and mispronounced a couple of words, but she didn't let that stop her. Afterwards, she received encouragement from the group, who appreciated her effort and authenticity. They told her that mistakes were part of the process and that confidence was built through practice. Chapter 14: Reflecting on the Journey. As Ava shares her journey with Maya, she reflects on how far she has come. She talks about the initial frustration, the self-doubt, and the fear of making mistakes. But now, she feels empowered. Her English is not perfect, but she is fluent in the truest sense of the word. She can express herself confidently, understand others with ease, and participate in conversations in both personal and professional contexts. Ava acknowledges the importance of patience and consistency. The road to fluency is long, but the small steps she took every day, from speaking with strangers to listening to podcasts, reading books, and practicing vocabulary, all contributed to her success. She emphasizes that there is no magic formula for learning a language. It's about putting in the time and effort, embracing mistakes, and celebrating progress. She encourages Maya and anyone else on a similar journey to keep going. "You'll get there," Ava says with a smile. "It's not about speaking perfectly, it's about speaking with confidence, and that confidence comes with practice." Chapter 15: The Continued Journey of Growth. Ava's story doesn't end with fluency. She knows that learning English, or any language, is a lifelong journey. She continues to improve her skills by engaging in conversations, reading, and listening to diverse sources. She takes pride in the progress she's made, but remains humble, knowing that there is always room for growth. Ava also becomes passionate about helping others who are learning English. She begins volunteering at local community centers, sharing her journey and offering tips to others who are struggling with the same challenges she once faced. She encourages learners to embrace their accents and mistakes, reminding them that these are part of their unique story. Her story ends with Ava feeling grateful for the journey, not just because she can now speak English fluently, but because it has taught her the value of perseverance, resilience, and self acceptance.